Hello and welcome back to the semifinals. Matej is taking a quick break and we're gonna put Simon Gertsen in here momentarily.
Simon.
The semifinals that we have for you are
You're going to
Pierre
both.
Dagen playing against Kentaro Yamamoto. Kentaro is one of the players who came from very far. He hails from Japan and he's making a convenient stopover here in Strasbourg on the way to the World Championships in Nice. If you're not aware, it starts this Tuesday, early morning here in Europe, so don't miss any of it. Pierre Dagen, very accomplished player from France, runner-up at Pro Tour Terros last year. So two very experienced players that we get to see. On the other table in the feature match area, we will have Martin Juza against Tamás Nag, two good players as well. What's at stake here is, well, a slot into the finals where you will get the trophy, $4,000, as well as the bragging rights of being the Grand Prix Strasbourg champion. But two matches remain that you will have to win in order to make it there. In total, an Aurelian 1984 players registered here for the Grand Prix. So these four remaining players are, well, arguably the best four ones out of the almost 2,000 players that showed up today. And I'm about to be joined here in the booth by Pro Tour winner Simon Gertsen, and we're gonna analyze this game and see what's going on.
Did somebody
Pierre?
say my name?
Oh yes.
Hello, Frank.
Hi Simon. Good to have you back.
So we just watched Martin Juza in the quarterfinals, so we've decided to bring up Pierre Dagen against Kentaro Yamamoto. And then the big question is, who of these four great players is going to make the finals?
The higher seed in this matchup is Pierre Dagen. So he gets to choose to be on the play, which I assume he will, because this is in general a format where being on the play gives you an advantage of, well, basically being the first person to unmorph a creature at 5 mana. Then you can get a hand in the combat steps.
Yeah, I haven't met a person this weekend that was happy to draw first. I think there are specific decks in sealed, sometimes in draft, but not ones that I've seen in this top 8. And I think we're off to the races here. This is the semifinals of GP Strasbourg 2014. We have Pierre Dagen against Kentaro Yamamoto, and the action starts off with the Scoured Barons, putting Pierre Dagen up to 21.
Yeah, Kentaro Yamamoto, he drafted this beautiful Jeskai Team Your deck. If it gets to the late game, then Kentaro can easily take over with all of these powerful cards like Jeskai Ascendancy, Treasure Cruise, Warden of the Eye, returning Treasure Cruise. He can go off pretty much. But can he get to the late game? Well, he already has 3 of his colors locked up, as well as a 2-drop, so that's pretty much the perfect start for Kentaro. Pierre Dagen a 2-drop on turn 3, not even a morph. Doesn't look good for the Frenchman.
Yamamoto drafted a very impressive deck. I wasn't so sure about the green splash, but I really like the Jeskai part.
With that, I agree. I also wasn't sure about the green part. It seemed a bit unnecessarily greedy to add the green cards in there, because, as you mentioned, the Jeskai part is already pretty strong with all this late game that I mentioned, as well as a reasonable creature base. He's assembled quite a powerful deck. So what's Pierre doing in the meantime? He just had the Highland game on turn 3. Does he have some powerful 4-drops?
In the quarterfinals, he really just dominated his opponent with tempo positive plays, Dragon Scale Boon, Suppression Field. Just it was always just like tiny advantages. But look at his next play. It's not just a 4-drop.
Oh wow, it's one of the better 4-drops in the format, especially when you can trigger the raid. 4/5, it towers over the battlefield.
Other players are spending 4 mana for a 3/3, and that's not even bad in this format.
Yep.
Yamamoto opting not to block with his sandbar, probably because he played a turn 3 Jeskai Ascendancy. And what's his response here? Alabaster Kirin.
Yeah, then the no block makes sense because Alabaster Kieran kind of blanks the Highland game, makes it an ineffectual attacker. And now Kentaro also has the Wetlet Sandbar if he wants to maybe double block a bigger creature or just use it in conjunction with the Jeskai Ascendancy to take out
yeah, keep in mind that,
a Hill
that this
Giant.
pumps his team.
Yeah.
Now, what happens when the Highland game attacks, Frank?
Well, Kentaro is thinking, oh man,
The game
Pierre,
is on.
The game is on. Yeah, Pierre must have a pump spell, otherwise you don't just send your Highland game on a suicide mission. Then again, it might be a bluff.
But I mean, the trade with Wetland Sandbar is still not bad, right? If that works out, for example.
Sure.
Let's say it's Dragon Skill Boom. That's the card you're more afraid of at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
That means, oh wow, Yamamoto just snaps off the double block here.
Yeah, it's beautiful. If Pierre has Dragon Skill Boon, then, well, Kentaro Yamamoto is taking down the creature. And if it was Awaken the Bear, then, well, kind of the same deal. So Kentaro kind of expected the pump spell and, well, played accordingly.
Yamamoto also drafted Drift very highly. So he has two of the sorceries with Delve and the Treasure Cruise. So that makes for some pretty nice mid-game plays.
Yeah, we were surprised by how highly he took them, because it is a card that can be quite expensive. Also sorcery speed, so you can't really use it during combat to trick your opponent. So it is limited in use only when you are kind of ahead on board and use it as a tempo play. In those kind of situations, it can be quite powerful. But yeah, Kentaro Yamamoto likes the card a lot.
Yeah, and you want to be spell heavy, especially in Jeskai, and especially if you have a Jeskai Ascendancy. Now, I've said it before. I think that 13 to 14 creatures is the optimum in this format, and that could explain why Yamamoto is on such a spell heavy strategy.
Mm. Well, I also don't mind the decks with a few more creatures if the spells that you have to back them up.
No, it's fine to play it. I'm just saying it's optimal not to.
Sure. Well, if you have 13 to 14 creatures, you can't really make good use of stuff like Barrage of Boulders or Incremental Growth or those kind of cards that are best when you have a ton of creatures in play. But of course, in a Jeskai deck, yeah, you want to have plenty of spells. So then I absolutely agree with you.
Martin Yuza actually did exactly that with Barrage of Boulders in a very creature-like deck to reach the top 8. So Set Adrift is a nice way here to punish Pierre Dagen for delving. Shemling attendants go back to the library, and Yamamoto is content with attacking for 3 after having triggered Jeskai Ascendancy, discarding an uncastable Bear's Companion.
Yeah. Maybe that's why he was content to add the green cards to his deck. If he doesn't have the mana to cast them, he can just discard them to the Jeskai Ascendancy. If he does have green mana, then Bear's Companion, giving him 2 guys, combos quite well with the Jeskai Ascendancy, pumping so many creatures.
I think he's even playing a Teamer banner to support that splash.
And to trigger his prowess and Jeskai Ascendancy. Seems good. I mean, I don't love the banners in general in this format, because more than often you would just prefer to play a Morph on turn 3. But if you can trigger Jeskai Ascendancy with them, then they do go up in value. Also, of course, when you have a 4-color deck with a shaky mana base otherwise. So Yamamoto, thinking through his plays here. Doesn't look like he has many profitable attacks. If he sends in a Morph, Pierre can relatively safely block with either the Bellowing Celebrute, maybe do a double block, though I'm not even sure what he would be scared of.
There's the green mana for Yamamoto now that Bear's Companion has been discarded. And while we're waiting for Pierre Dagen to take his turn, we have Matej with an update.
I just seen a brutal game. It looked somewhat okay for Martin Yuza, had a 2-drop, 3-drop, and the first play of Tamaj Naj was only a turn 4 Sidisi. However, it was a Sidisi. Suddenly it kickstarted the whole deck of Tamaj Naj, who just romped through Martin Yuza by delving away around 12 cards and Murderous Cut, Shambling Attendants, and Savage Punching, Bellowing, Celebrating, just absolutely dominating Martin Yuza, who had no chance whatsoever.
All right, thank you. The power of Delve and CDC making a splash here in Limited. Another constructed card entered the battlefield for Pierre Dagen. Rakshasa Death Dealer. Now, I see 1 planes, so that's 2 activations currently available.
Yes, indeed. Though if he adds another force to the board, he can add it. He can activate it 3 times a turn. But 2 activations would already be sufficient for attacking into the Dragonized Savants. Still, I gotta give the edge here to Kentaro Yamamoto, just based on having Jeskai Ascendancy in play and the nature of his deck being very strong in the late game, with all the card advantage and other tricks that he has.
So even if he hasn't stabilized yet, you still like the position that he's in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he does need to find a way to deal with Rakshasa Death Dealer. He might be able to damage raise it.
Yeah. We do get a glimpse of his hand. That's clearly an Efreet Weapon Master. Might be a Mind Swipe as his last card. That would be very interesting. Basically won him the quarterfinals.
Yeah, the thing is that Kentaro will have to take a long time before winning this game, because currently he's still not capable of lining up good attacks, especially against the Rakshasa Death Dealer, and he has to be on blocking duty for the foreseeable future. No, just passes the turn. Content to sit back with indeed the Mind Swipe.
Oh, so there we see it. It is actually a Mystic of the Hidden Way, which Yamamoto opted not to cast.
Yeah, he wants to keep open mana for the Mind Swipe, counter anything threatening that Pierre plays. Now Pierre had the option of attacking with Rakshasa Death Dealer, and then if Kentaro blocks with the Dragonized Savants, Pierre can just double pump it. But I think Pierre is afraid of all the mana that Kentaro has open. And this almost certainly is going to get countered. Plus 4 damage and a free draw and discard.
Wow. Counter your 6-drop and you didn't attack because you were scared of open mana?
Yep. Yeah, not really the best turn for the French player here. Had he known about the Mind Swipe, I'm sure he would have just attacked with Rakshasa Death Dealer. But it's more likely that Kentaro has something like a Smite to Monsters or Kill Shot or whatever than a Mind Swipe.
Yeah, I'm still wondering why attacking with all creatures was not an option.
Again, maybe afraid of like Kentaro having an instant speed card in hand, then making blocks that force Pierre to commit some mana to the Rakshasa Death Dealer, and then Pierre falls behind on tempo.
So this morph turned into a 5-power creature with the Weapon Master here. And 5 is exactly what Yamamoto needs to attack without suiciding his creature.
Yeah, it doesn't get first strike though, so if Pierre blocks with, well, any of his guys, the creatures will trade. Pierre will have to figure out, well, how big is this morph going to be when it unmorphs? Now I can trade it for, say, the Alabaster Kirin, which might be okay, might not be, depending on what's actually under this morph. If it's a big creature, then I think Pierre will be happy to trade it for the Alabaster Kirin. Then again, if it was a big creature, would Kentaro just send it into the red zone just like this, ready to die?
I'm wondering, Frank, isn't Alabaster Kirin one of the best cards on Pierre's side of the board?
Yeah, maybe he would actually block with the 4/5, because the Kirin can attack, whereas the 4/5 just goes into the Dragonized Savants.
Another Weapon Master, I think that's a good trade then.
For sure.
There's the Alabaster Kirin. It is the only creature that's currently dealing damage, because Yamamoto doesn't have a flyer on defense. So I like that Pierre just goes ahead and says, I'm going to trade with my 4/5 rather than my 2/3 flyer.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense when you think of it. At first it's kind of a counterintuitive play. The first thing you think of, well, I'll trade my small guy rather than my big guy. But indeed, when facing an 06 and no flyers, that ability is way more important. And now Pierre could attack with both of his creatures. There does seem to be a bit of communication between the players.
I think there was a judge intervention. I think that the judge might have thought that the triggered ability from the Freed Weapon Master gave first strike.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, but that's the only explanation I have for somebody intervening there.
Kentaro just snaps off the block. He must have already thought about this play. Pierre can just double pump his Rakshasa Dead Dealer. But I think Kentaro is fine with that, because it means that Pierre doesn't really use his turn productively for something else. And Kentaro saves a lot of life points. And at this point, Pierre, he doesn't have mana up to regenerate his Dead Dealer. He has a Swamp, a Plains, and what I believe to be scored Barrens. Yeah, no green mana there. Kentaro is verifying. So if Kentaro has, say, a burn spell, he can just take down the Dead Dealer right now. Does he have one? Yeah, he has Bring Low. That'll do it. And since he's gonna play it anyway this turn, just to play it to trigger the Jeskai Ascendancy. Nice timing here. You get to deal 1 additional point of damage and untap the Efreet Weapon Master by playing it during combat.
Yeah, that's really nice. He also drew a Take Up Arms.
Not
So
really that the untap matters here, but still.
All right, quick update by Matej.
It is 1-1. As much of a demolishment game 1 was from the side of Tamaj Knight, Martin User gave Tamaj no chance this game. He went turn 2 Ice Feather Aven, into turn 3 Jeskai Wind Scout, into turn 4 Summit Prowler. Turn 5 was 2 more creatures, and he just overran Tamaj Knight completely, who was on the back foot the whole game. So 1-1, we're going to game 3.
All right, going to a deciding game, and at the same time, Pierre Dagen is continuously attacking for 2, and that looks like a pretty good blocker on his side of the board.
Yeah, Shambling Attendants. Well, is it really a good blocker? Because if Kentaro Yamamoto can just trigger the Jeskai Ascendancy once, he turns his guy into a 5-4 first strike. That beats the 3-5 Death Touch.
So would you block here?
Pierre snaps off the block. The thing is, if you're never gonna block, then you're not really gonna win the game either.
You can't attack either, because then the instant still kills because you're a creature.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like one of the most powerful instants Yamamoto could have here, because he also gets like an incredible army from that spell. It's not like just that he had a Trumpet Blast, which effectively didn't do anything but be a combat trick.
Ooh, Pierre actually has something. Absent Charm to boost his Shambling Attendants. Wow. So now it not only lives through combat, but also takes down the Efreet Weapon Master. And well, maybe that's good enough to swing around this game. That's impressive. Pierre can now attack with both of his creatures on the next turn. That would only threaten 7 damage. Pierre has to be a bit scared of all these 1-1 tokens along with the Jeskai Ascendancy.
Yeah, but now Yamamoto really needs something else here.
Well, if he has Trumpet Blast or something, that's lethal. But that's kind of unlikely.
Through the vigilance of the Kirin, is it?
No, it's not. You're right.
So Yamamoto is forced to play this defensively here, blocks Shambling Attendants with a 1-1. Pierre Dagen follows it up with an Unyielding Krumar, just good enough for the job here. Wow. And a Jeskai Charm.
Yeah, see, it's like a constructed deck, but what can he really do with the Jeskai Charm? I mean, he can put one of Pierre's creatures back on top, but then he's still not really attacking. He can deal 4 damage to Pierre, but when he's at 11, nah. Can pump his guys and give lifelink. I guess that's nice, but they are not big enough to beat the Unyielding Krumar in combat. Kentaro not really in great shape here after all. Kentaro's also in danger of dying in 2 turns to the Alabaster Kirin.
Yeah, maybe Yamamoto has to just try to stay alive somehow. But that cost him another creature, right? Yeah.
Man, that Absent Charm, that was such a beating.
And Pierre had exactly that mana open after delving for Shambling Attendant.
Yeah.
I was wondering if there was any way that you could have spotted that. But I think you still go for it. It's almost impossible to play around.
Yeah, I think if Pierre wouldn't have the card in hand, he would also keep the mana open just to bluff something. So. mean, Kentaro can play the Mystic of the Hidden Way and then block the incoming ground creatures, but then he's also still not winning the damage race, even with like Jeskai Charm to the face, plus an Ascendancy trigger. That's not going to be good enough.
I
He
think
also cannot
Yamamoto
really
thought
attack
about
here.
attacking with all because, like he's at least threatening something, but the blocks just destroy him.
Mm. Maybe like morph the Mystic and then keep open Jeskai Charm mana to possibly put the Alabaster Kirin back on top. Then hope that Pierre swings in with all of his creatures.
And then you can maybe
Yeah.
triple block.
You know, you can just jump the
Triple
Shambling.
block with Kumar.
Sure. Yeah, that would work because of course the Jeskai Ascendancy gives +1/+1 to all of your creatures. So then if Pierre has nothing, the Krumar would probably trade for the Morph most likely. So
Yeah,
that's-
if Yamamoto is tapped out, that's the most likely thing. Although Pierre knows that there might also be a Dragon's Eye Savant, but that would have been in play earlier, I suppose.
Mm. Alternatively, Yamamoto could like jump block the Shambling. If Pierre attacks with everything, Yamamoto could jump block the Shambling Attendants, then put Alabaster Kirin back on top, just take 3 damage from the Unyielding Krumar, and then on the next turn, maybe he will have drawn into some more spells, swing back, though he needs a lot of spells in order to make that work. I think I like the Jeskai Charm on the Alabaster Kirin and then triple block the Unyielding Krumar.
That way, at least you are not just losing creatures, basically.
Mm.
Oh wait, what's up with the +1/+1 lifelink? The problem is it's just never going to be good against the Shambling Attendants, right? But what Yamamoto could do here would be to actually gain 7,
Yeah, there's also a nice line,
maybe even gain 10.
I guess. Yeah, with Jeskai Charm giving the +1/+1 on lifelink, it's effectively +2/+2 due to the Jeskai Ascendancy, and then this would indeed gain him 10 life. Yeah,
So he
he
goes-
actually trades, of course.
He goes to 12.
Yeah, this is the best play.
He found it, we didn't.
Yeah, that's why
So-
he's in the top 4.
Well, we didn't compete in the tournament though.
Fair enough.
So no, I mean we can't really complain about the level of skill that we have in this top 4. That's pretty amazing when you look at how these people got here, and that's there was like I'm sure that this was just the best use of Jeskai Charm
Yeah,
in this spot.
absolutely.
Getting
I mean-
out of reach.
It's very easy to miss that like it gives +2/+2 in total. When you think about Jeskai Charm, like I made the shortcut on my head of well it gives +1/+1, without considering that there is a Jeskai Ascendancy as well. But that combination is quite powerful. Kentaro also got to dig deeper into his deck, and now we find Warden of the Eye, so he can return something from his graveyard, then start casting that once again. Another Jeskai Ascendancy trigger. Yeah, looks like the player from Japan is clawing back into this quite admirably.
He could actually, if he wants to be super mana efficient, he can just get back Shadow Drift and cast it immediately. I don't know if that's his, that's what he wants to be doing, but it's definitely not the worst spell in his graveyard.
What else does he have? He has Jeskai Charm, Mind
Take up
Swipe.
arms. Yeah, I don't think you can get Mind Swipe.
No,
That's
no,
just-
no. Especially when your opponent knows that you have
Let
it,
me
so
just
he's
get
never.
that X spell counter.
Yeah, and
pa-
I hope
pass
that you
the
play
turn.
right in it. Yeah. The Bringlow can deal with the Alabaster Kirin as a permanent
That's
answer.
probably a more solid line.
Yeah, the Set Adrift would only be a temporary thing, but it's more mana efficient. Whereas the Bringlow, well, Kentaro would have to take another hit from the Kirin, but then he can remove it for good. I think I like the Bringlow here. Yeah. The
He
extra text on Bringlow also being
He also
relevant.
has a creature that he doesn't want to discard. I think if he had a land, the sedative has its merits because you get to do it this turn, and then your opponent draws a 2/3, you have a 3/3. and you are 2 cards deeper into your deck.
Yep.
But let's see what Pierre Dagen has to answer this. That was a great.
That's a lot of
great
mana.
card. Oh.
Oh wow. Well, he doesn't have Ferocious, so he only gets to look at the top 8 and take 1 creature from there, but he gets to pick the best one. Maybe Absent Guide so far. A bunch of small ones. No, it's probably Absent Guide. Yes. Well, he also gets to put a bunch of cards into his graveyard in case he draws another Delve spell. I'm not sure if he has something like a dead drop in his deck, but that would be relevant as well then.
I don't think the life totals have been updated. The Pierre definitely attacked with the Kirin, didn't he?
Yeah, there's no reason not to. So almost certainly Kentaro is down to 9 life.
Also, sweet attacking option here for Yamamoto, who's threatening to kill the Kirin and trade with the Absent Guide if it blocks. And now, if it doesn't, then Yamamoto is waiting until its opponent's upkeep. I would guess.
Yeah, to play around a Feat of Resistance or other pump spell being drawn.
No, he actually doesn't. So
might have been interesting for Pierre to actually block the Warden of the Eye with the Alabaster Kirin, because I mean, if Kentaro is going to bring low it anyway, then you might as well block with the Kirin, and you force Kentaro to spend the bring low beforehand.
It is horrible though if your opponent has another instant in hand.
That much is true, but I mean, Pierre is behind in this game, so he needs to try something.
Yeah, would have been a nice line there.
And now Pierre can attack with the Absent Guide, but Kentaro can just line up a double block with the Warden and the Jeskai Elder. So that doesn't really seem to get Pierre anywhere. Maybe just Outlast and pass the turn. Even if Pierre is in real danger of just dying to the next attack, if Kentaro has another card like Set Adrift, he would be able to get rid of the Absent Guide and swing in for the kill.
It's quite impressive what Yamamoto made of this game.
Yeah, the Jeskai charm was definitely the deciding factor. Pumped his guys, gave him a lot of life to work with, and time, such that he can take over the game with the Jeskai Ascendancy and Warden of the Eye.
Yeah, this double block by Dagen, are you afraid of a trick here, or is this just a fair trade?
Well, you're definitely afraid of a trick, but I don't really see another good block. Like, you can't really put your Jeskai Wind Scouts in there for no reason at all.
And a morph.
It's not a great trade for Pierre, but he got to deal some damage to Yamamoto, who's now down to 6 life. He gained some life himself, such that he won't randomly die to a bunch of spells and pumps from the Jeskai Ascendancy.
I think that Yamamoto is holding 2 lands. I'm not exactly sure. Like, oh, yeah. So if he attacks, it will be a Stone Cold Bluff with the Jeskai Elder. But the problem is, if he doesn't draw something quickly, he just dies because his opponent's creatures are so threatening. Oh, a Witness of the Ages, not quite Absent Guide, but it's the size that matters the most here.
Yeah, now all of a sudden Yamamoto has to jump block here.
Is he holding a spell? Is he getting ready to concede? He has only the planes. Jump block, go down to 3.
Seeker of the Way. Well, it's another creature added to the board. What is it? Absent Battle Priest. That's maybe 1 turn too late. Yamamoto can play it. He's currently down to 3 life.
Yeah, the life total hasn't been updated, so 3 life is. That means you don't have a good block.
Yeah, you can trade the Longshot Squad for the Absent Battle Priest, but then you have to jump block the 4/4. Then you have nothing left, facing 2 lethal creatures on the next turn. Maybe if he draws Treasure Cruise on the next turn, he could still get there. But he probably needs something like that. Yeah, so the obvious blocks being made. I think Pierre has also got on that Yamamoto just has a land in hand. If Yamamoto had a spell, he would certainly have used it here.
Yeah, it was also, I think Yamamoto overdid a little bit by counting his lands and his graveyard multiple times.
And no Treasure Cruise. So that was quite a long game. Sweet.
And I think
Close,
the other match
close damage race.
might be over as well.
It is over indeed.
Mate.
It was a very interesting match where Tamás had a very slow draw, but didn't have his fourth land. But once he did, he played DC, managed to replay it after getting it bounced, played a Treasure Cruise, played a Sultai Scavenger, and just again had all the time in the world to do because Martin User was not able to put enough pressure. He drew a bit too many lands, so the classic game where Mana Screw got out of it and beat Mana Flood.
All right, so Tamás Nagy is in the finals, and we are still watching Pierre Dagen against Kentaro Yamamoto. Frank, I have to say the Delph spells are really putting in work.
Yeah, you saw Kentaro Yamamoto do strange stuff with Treasure Cruise and Set Adrift earlier this top 8. You saw Pierre Dagen setting up for the Shambling Attendants. It is one of the marquee abilities in Cons of Tarkir Limited, and when you sculpt your deck around it, maybe with some cards that put stuff into the graveyard or that force you to discard some things, you can suddenly turn these seemingly overcasted Delph cards into super efficient spells.
Yeah, and it's not only Sultai. You have the Abzan cards with Delph. You have the Jeskai cards with Delph. Well, not Jeskai cards, but it's the cards that go well into the Jeskai deck, like Set Adrift. Treasure Cruise also in the spell-heavy decks.
Sure, and it works well with even some red cards like Tormenting Voice. Draw and discard, set up your graveyard for a huge Delph spell. So
especially even in Mardu Warriors, if you get the Sultai Scavenger down turn 4 or 3.
I mean, even if everything goes wrong, you have to play it for 6 mana, then, well, it's a bit overcasted, but you still get a reasonable deal out of it. Most of the time it's being cast for indeed 4 or 5 mana in those decks, but that's still fine. And sometimes you have to draw with, say, Bitter Revelation. Maybe you just put one Bitter Revelation into your deck and then suddenly there's the 1 mana Sultai Scavenger. You don't want too many of these Delph cards in your deck, because then sometimes your graveyard is just empty when you draw multiple Delph cards.
But I think
especially the first is always nice.
Yeah, most people are putting too few Delph cards in their deck.
Maybe. What would be a good number?
I think you can easily support 3, and most people stop after one or 2. But look at Yamamoto's deck. It didn't seem clunky with 2 Set Adrift and a Treasure Cruise, and even like casting Shambling Attendants, recasting Shambling Attendants. Pierre Dagen had enough cards in his graveyard to play even more of these spells. Like the longer the game goes, the less it matters that they cost mana, and you still fill up your graveyard.
Yeah, that much is true. Yeah, 2 or 3 Delph spells seems perfectly fine in pretty much every deck. Now I do think that both players' decks are filled with plenty of spells that go to the graveyard easily. Or
that's why you shouldn't play too many creatures also, because if you get into a ground stall, then you have if you draw like a 2 mana 2/1, but if there's no action on the ground, it's not really it really is as close as possible to 0 impact.
Yeah,
which
that's
a spell is basically, well, it's pretty tough for a spell to have 0 impact.
Then again, I've also seen how important it is to curve out in this format. I think many games have been decided by some players just go 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop, and then some spell to clear away a blocker, and it's just over. If you don't put that many creatures into your deck, you reduce the possibility of curving out nicely.
Yeah. You definitely shouldn't cut down on early plays, and that's what Morph is for. That's why you don't want the heavy cards. And we see the 2-drops, the importance of 2-drops, Frank. This must be your dream.
Oh yes, 2 1s on both sides of the table, beautiful. Well, Kentaro has 3 colors of mana now, missing red, and he didn't even offer the trade for the Wetland Sandbar. Okay, well, he's blocking now, so I guess it doesn't really matter how it turns out. Alpine Grizzly, well, it could just trade for the morph that's over there, or maybe if Pierre has some spells with Ferocious in hand, like Savage Punch, he's definitely content to leave it around. No, cards just trade.
No, this is, I think, a turn where it's really good to trade with the Mystic of the Hidden Way and not try to race with it, because you're falling behind too quickly.
Yeah, you don't want to be trading 4 damage for 3 damage.
Yamamoto drew a basic forest, but doesn't have a mountain.
Yeah, and he has multiple red cards in hand,
I think
and
this
no
could
way to
be,
deal with
this could
his
be
4/5.
a big problem. I didn't like the green splash in particular because he was splashing red and green cards, teamwork cards, and that means you need perfect mana and then the forest.
Yeah, and he also didn't have enough fixers. He had a few lands, but only like 4 around that number, which I don't think is good enough to play 4 colors. And you really see what's going on here. Whereas in the first game, Kentaro was able to play all of his powerful spells, and well, he didn't actually get there, but almost got there in the late game. Here, yeah, this is just so frustrating. You have all these red cards in hand, but no red mana. Maybe he's regretting not taking some lands at this point. But
Oh, he took some lands. It's just
yeah, he could have taken more.
I'm blaming the basic forest.
Yeah, that too. No, that's it.
Well,
It's an unfortunate
he did
anticlimactic
cast-
end, but
he did cast 2 spells, but if you stop casting spells afterwards,
yeah.
that's it. So Pierre Dagen has it rather easy, cruising to the finals.
Mhm.
Well, not really with the Treasure Cruise deck, but with Abzan.
Yep. And there he's gonna face Tamás Nagy from Hungary, a member of the Hungarian World Magic Cup team.
I think we should get Matej back into the booth to actually teach us how to pronounce these names correctly.
Yeah, this like I've always tried with like first Nagy and then Nag, and yeah, this is something that I'm also never gonna get right, I think.
Welcome back. There was some exciting magic. Pierre Dagen in the finals, Tamás Nagy in the finals. Who is not in the finals? Martin Juza is not in the finals. Oleg Plisov is not in the finals. Max Pritsch is not in the finals. Dan Preut is also not in the finals. And Kentaro Yamamoto, he had the forest but no mountains. He's also not in the finals.
Yeah, it looks like mana consistency is still a big factor in this format. It can easily decide games.
Yeah,
Then again, it's sometimes really difficult to say no to all these sweet multicolor cards, like all the Temur stuff. All the
What I
Jeskai
learned
stuff.
about this format this weekend is that there's not one rule, but probably 4 or 5.
Mm.
And it's always easy to say, well, this could have been done differently, like for example the mana base, but these players are operating under so many constraints, more than in M15, even more than I think in Return to Ravnica, Dragon's Maze, for example. It was just, if you know that a format is 5 color, okay, you play 5 color, right? You pick mana fixing highly. But this format is 3 color on the surface, but then sometimes it's 2 colors, sometimes it's 4 or 5 color, and you also have this almost like a meta game that you have to consider.
Yeah, like if too many people on the table are drafting 5 colors, snapping up all of the lands, then you want to be certain to move into a 2-color deck, because you're never gonna fix the mana for a 4 or maybe even 3-color deck. But I've been likening this format a bit to Cube Draft. In Cube Draft, you also have many different options, many different archetypes that you can go into. You can go, well, 2 colors, you can go like into 5 colors, some kind of nice controlling deck. It's kind of similar. You can have all these different approaches, and they can all work, and I love that.
Yeah, very good explanation there. And I was surprised that there's a lot of Abzan decks in this top 8, and we still have an Abzan deck in the finals. Often, if too many people draft the same color combination, they all get decks that aren't on par. But
maybe Abzan is just the best clan with the best cards.
I think Pierre Dagen might also just know better what his deck needs. We've seen him.
Fair enough.
We've seen him make decks work where the drafting was kind of clunky. It looked like he only had lands at some point, and then he still, like 2 Armored Cores later, he has the best deck at the table. It's like he knows what he needs, and then he really pushes his advantage both during drafting, but also especially during gameplay.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, this is also harkening back to the comparison to Cube. It's not just drafting, like choosing to draft so many colors. It's also knowing like what your deck specifically needs, and you can indeed turn it into an aggro deck. In which case, certain cards, stuff like Icy Blast, for example, that Martin Juza put to good use, shoot up in value. You can also make it into kind of a controlling deck. In which case, for example, the cheap removal spells and the card draw spells go up in value. and probably recognizing what kind of deck you are drafting, what you are planning to do when you are in a game. That's really important.
Yeah,
in,
and
yeah,
Tamás
drafting.
Nagy did that very well as well. He had this always kind of like this weird CDC control decks, maybe Abzan control, but he always did super high impact early stuff as well. So this is actually